Hello everybody, it's Malcolm Boudin here, and in this short video we're going to talk about wide area network design and cover some of the things that we will talk about in great detail on the MNB Networks WAN Design course. So without further ado, let's jump right in. So when we talk about WAN design, we just think, or many people think, alright, let's put some routers in. We have an MPLS network, right, and then some routers here, here, and here, and then we have some kind of data center up here, which has access out to the cloud or the internet. You get the picture. So how things are evolving now is there's many requests from internal customers to have direct access to the cloud and direct access to the internet to stop us having to come up the traditional way through the data center and access these services as shown on the screen. So it sounds easy, right? That you just, instead of connecting via the data center, you just connect directly over to the internet to the public cloud services. Not quite so. So let's talk a little bit about how we can design such an architecture. So before we go any further with this, let's talk about what we actually need in our design in order to provide connectivity. First of all, we need to decide on what are the locations. And what I mean by this, the locations on the network could be public cloud, colo data center, branch site, partner or third party. So that could be, for example, somebody who provides a managed service. We also don't want to forget about the internet in general. Then on top of that, we might have things to consider like remote access VPN. So how do our remote access VPN users come into the network? And then they come into the network and have to access potentially all of these other locations on the network. So we want to think about what location we're coming from. The second thing I would say is, how do we want to get to these locations? And what we're talking about here is strategy. That could be MPLS, private transport. So for example, if you need QoS, for example, I should say, you might need some links with private connectivity, such as MPLS L3 VPN. You could go internet first. You might go cloud first. And so on. So we talk about the different locations. We're talking about how we're going to get to these different locations. Then what we need to think about is what do we have at the moment? We have now and then 4, how do we get there? To this, whatever we decide on here. So let's zoom out a little bit and like draw one of these, a network that could be one of these different, with all these, sorry, I should say with all these different locations in them. So first of all, we've got the public cloud. So we then, this would potentially be driven by a decision being made that we wanted to go cloud first. So when I say cloud first, what I mean is our organization will be looking to host things in cloud environments ahead of co-location and having our own data centers and things like that. So let's just focus on this one scenario where we have public cloud first. So what do we need to think of? We need to think of how do we actually get to the public cloud? And there's effectively a few ways that we can get there, right? And a few different use cases. We might have a laptop or a server which is connected directly to the internet via a WAN router, obviously, and a LAN switch. Okay, and that's all they have at the moment. And they need to access some kind of storage. So let's say that's an S3 bucket. And we have some picture files here that need to effectively be sent up to this S3 bucket. So we can achieve that by doing the necessary things that we need to do in the Amazon Web Service. And that's relatively straightforward to do. This is not a training video for Amazon Web Services. We just want to highlight some example traffic flows at this stage. So that could be one scenario, sending data up to the cloud to a storage service. Another thing that we might want to look at is having infrastructure as a service in the cloud, and then things become a little bit different. So if we have a server up here, or a service, I should say, up here, then what we really need to think about is how do we get these devices at the site in order to communicate with this device up here. Now, we've got a couple of ways that we can achieve that. I'm just going to draw in one way. So if we have some kind of gateway at the cloud facing the internet, we can create an IPsec VPN to that gateway, which then sends the traffic onward bound to the infrastructure as a service. Now, what if we don't have some kind of policy that allows our sites down here to break out directly to the internet? Well, in that case, what we're probably going to need to do is something like have an MPLS or a point-to-point link into a data center, a colo, let's say, colo data center. Then have a private cross-connect from some kind of router here to some kind of router, X connect, let's call it. But that's really something, but you're talking about things like AWS Direct Connect, which you normally have to provide this link via a partner. So some of the large co-location data center hosting providers provide this service, but you have to liaise with them in order to set up BGP and all sorts of different things. So that's one way, and then you get charged for various different things like peering and bandwidth and all the rest of it. And the Azure equivalent is Azure Express Route. So these are, the common denominator with these is they are a mechanism that you can use your own MPLS network in order for remote sites to effectively reach this server. I'll draw the traffic flow in blue this time, over the direct connect with a QoS end-to-end enabled path. And that's more for companies who require assurance in order, or assurance, when I say assurance, I mean assurance that, for example, in a congestion scenario, traffic is not going to be affected. So if you had traffic down at this site at the bottom here that was real time going to this service up here in the blue in the top of Amazon Web Service, which is an infrastructure as a service or something like that, then you would perhaps want to go or lean towards a direct connect. In addition to these two mechanisms for connecting into the cloud, you also have to think about various different things like security. What's approved by my organisation's security department? Is there any other traffic flows that I need to consider? And then also, whilst all this is happening, you still have potentially, other sites just communicating between each other, like shown by the green line here. So you also need to accommodate for traffic flows between sites which are just routing WAN traffic. When we can get into more things talking about underlays and overlays, because another way, and the final way that I'm going to talk about potentially breaking out to the public cloud from a site, is via your provider's core network or MPLS network. So if we focus on the red now, there may be some sort of similar direct connect here to here. The difference between this is you would route directly from the site into the service provider core over the direct connect and then to the infrastructure as a service over that way. So it's all transparent to you. The only challenge with that is when you start getting into underlays, overlays, managing routing with your provider, etc., and it can get a little bit tricky. That concludes this short take video. We cover these scenarios and many more in the MNB Networks WAN Design course, where you will also be given the opportunity to design networks such as the below or such as the attached in real time, where the instructor will provide guidance and also act as a customer, pushing back on some of your design decisions in order to get you thinking about the optimal solution against the listed customer requirements. If you would like to sign up for the course or hear anything more about it, please contact designteam@mnbnetworks.tech or you can go mnbnetworks.tech/WAN Design course. All links are in the video description. I'd like to thank you for watching and speak to you again soon.